no Bigfoot. Unless you accidentally or you've ran across one,
Yeah.
they can debunk it and say I'm a liar all they want. I haven't, even until I started doing this show, I haven't told people because, you get labeled as a crackpot.
Yeah. But, I mean, you believe you saw that. You believe that you experienced it, and you have a friend that experienced the same thing. So, I mean, that's real.
Well, I remember when I got to the car, right? Either that whatever it was beat us to the car and knew where it was, or, it was brought out when I was talking to another guest on the show. It could have been its mate or another whatever associate.
Yeah, could have been another one.
Yeah, but it was like 25 feet away from the car. Bending a tree over was like 25 feet tall, bending over like nothing. Yeah. And then it screamed at us then. And I got the car started. My friend was trying to get his leg in the car, and I was dragging him. I remember that. And the thing threw a rock and put a dent in the car, which, oh, well. But you know what? Yeah. Bad part is it was a brand new car. It was my wife's car. She reluctantly let me take it to do this trip because she thought it would be dependable. I come home with a dent on the fender, Hey, Linda.
And a story about Bigfoot.
Yeah, I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her for a long time after that. Because,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, you can sit there and tell your wife, oh, hey, a Bigfoot threw a rock and you got a dent in your fender or your car. Okay. Yeah, she'd buy that one really well.
When I was in Central America, I saw some strange. I had a couple instances that were strange. One was my first year there, and I was around a fire on the beach, and we'd been drinking and whatnot. It was me and some other tourists that were traveling through. As you do, you meet up with people that are traveling from all over the world, and you kind of stick together, especially if they speak Spanish and you don't, you stick to them. But we were hanging out around the fire, and I had to use the bathroom. So I made my way up to the jungle to do this. And again, now I'm out of the light of the fire. And I felt this thing running at me. Like I could hear it, like making its way through whatever was on the floor of the jungle, the leaves and whatnot, rustling towards me, and then stop like a few feet in front of me. But there was nothing there. I couldn't see anything. But I had been drinking. So there's that, but I've never had an experience anything like that in my life. I wasn't hallucinating off of beer, but something stopped. And so I just wrote it off that it was probably like a lizard, like a big lizard or something like that. But they're really not active at night from what I understand. And this thing, I just didn't see it. But it stopped. Like I felt almost the force of it. I could hear it getting closer and closer, and then it stopped. And then I got out of there and went back to the fire. But I don't know what that was. But it was a very, very strange thing. I can't explain.
Well, maybe you're glad you didn't run into it. I mean,
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't go any deeper into the fire. Or maybe I surprised it, too, whatever it was. It was weird. Another time I was on a patio somewhere. I was, hanging out again with some friends. And we may have been drinking. That may not have been. But I saw something fly across the night sky, almost like it shot out of my eye. Like I saw something that, I just wrote it off that it was a firefly. I must have trailed like a firefly with my eye, but it went out over the ocean. I mean, it was either one or the other. There was something in the sky that did that, came from behind me maybe. And I stopped talking. I was in the middle of a conversation. And I stopped talking. I was I think I was sitting in a hammock too. Stopped talking. I got up and I just started looking. And my friends were like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I kind of was freaking them out because I really just stopped dead in the conversation and started looking in the sky, and it was gone, whatever it was. And I just couldn't make sense out of it. And they were all looking at me weird as I was trying to tell them, I don't know what I just saw, or I don't know what it was. It was really bizarre.
Yeah, could you imagine also running in out in the woods somewhere out there and like a 20-some-foot lizard,
Yeah. Well, supposedly there were it wasn't Mayans, but there was another indigenous people down there that lived in the jungle there, and what I was facing was this cliff wall that was at the end of the jungle. Well, not the end of the jungle. It was somewhere midway in the jungle, and supposedly they used to make sacrifices off that, throwing their enemies off of it. So that's what I was staring at, is this place, this area where they would have been, landing, if you will. And it's just a spooky place. I mean, there's a lot. This was a peninsula in Costa Rica that had only been populated for the last 75 years. So that you would stumble upon like pre-Columbian stuff all the time. If people were building homes, they would find stuff. So there was a lot of weird spookiness going on there. Supposedly Montezuma is actually buried out there too, where most people think it was up in Mexico or even further up in North America. They actually think that was just a distraction. They were sending people that way, when in all actuality it went down south, and he was buried there on this peninsula. But there's a lot of mystical and strange stories, tales, and folklore around this area of Costa Rica that I was in.
Oh yeah, that's when you get out places like that. I mean, let's face it, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have probably newspapers.
No.
So I mean, everything they talked about was word of mouth from one person to the next person. So maybe things got embellished, but I mean, it had to start out somewhere. And
exactly.
And it's so funny, even like with UFOs. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're talking about some places in the Amazon where the tribe members talk about like these guys, spacecraft basically landing, wearing these funny outfits and dome helmets, and it's been reported there. It's been reported all over the world. And how would they know about it? I mean, let's face it, some of those tribes, were just basically civilized in the last 20 years because they used to eat.
Yeah, they were cut off.
Yeah, they were cannibals, a lot of them.
Yeah, there's that too. Definitely on the Amazon. Yeah, I mean, a lot of strange stories, or a lot of the lore or myths about the red-headed gods that they found, or that came to them and shared knowledge with them thousands of years ago. Like, you hear this myth from different tribes and cultures throughout the Amazon in Central America, and it's like, well, who were these red-headed gods? It surely wasn't the Vikings. They were dropping knowledge.
Well, what I find, you look at all these, extinct, peoples, like built like the Incas and all these, right? They built these massive cities and all that stuff, and then they disappeared. What happened? I mean, strange. I mean, all of a sudden, one day they were there, and then the next day they weren't. They had road systems, they had complete everything, and just like vanished overnight.
Yeah, it is always interesting.
So maybe
it's spooky.
Maybe they were abducted. I mean, you never know. I mean, they were into sacrifice and they were into all this type of stuff, big time.
Yeah.
And it just seems like,
or it just breaks up. Civilization breaks up. People go this way, people go that way, and everyone takes a small piece of it in different directions. Because even back then, civilization is compartmentalized to a certain extent. So people have just bits and pieces of the knowledge of that time, and they splinter off into their own little tribes and groups. So they don't actually disappear; they just like scatter.
Yeah, but
even the Native American cultures around here, like I live in Casa Grande, and that's named after the first national monument in the United States, it's a big house that's 1,000 years old, if not more, and they know very little about this culture, this Native American culture back then. But the Native American people were getting offended that people kept saying that it disappeared. Suddenly, overnight, it was gone. And they're like, no, it didn't disappear. We're still here. But that civilization disappeared. Everyone scattered in different directions because of droughts or storms, whatever killed that civilization. It's just so they scattered around. It's like, but we're still here.
Yeah,
I thought was a good way to put it.
But what happened to all the technology? I mean, that's what I find so unique. I mean, some of this technology was so advanced. I mean, you take the pyramids, you take the Sphinx. Now they're starting to realize that the Sphinx is way, way older than they have even thought. I mean, they've been doing some testing and stuff, and they come to the conclusion the backside of the Sphinx was underwater. The wear on it was not done from the sand blasting through all these years. It was done because they come to conclusion at one point it was under an ocean. So, I mean, if you go back that far, where was man at?
Yeah, or was it man? It definitely is. What's that geologist? He's on all those shows. But yeah, he was definitely there checking out the Sphinx and saying that, it pre-exists Egypt, or what we know as Egypt, and that even the head was probably a lion's head. and Ramsey's face was carved into it after the fact. But yeah, it's a lot. I just want to know what's under it. I mean, I just want to get under the Sphinx.
Well,
Supposedly there's a room under there that contains the lost books of Alexandria. I mean, there's all these different stories and myths about what's under there. But and then there's the secret or the riddle of the Sphinx too. Where does that come from? So I mean, is that just a signpost pointing under the Sphinx? Check it out, people.
Well, but then you get into the same time frame, okay? If you look at some of these things that arrows that are miles long pointing to a certain area, or pictures, okay, of people fighting, that are, you're up a couple thousand feet and you look down and you can see it. No way their technology, even our technology, could have done that. So that should be a no-brainer that something had to been here, before us to have done this. I mean, maybe the pyramids and the Sphinx and all this stuff wasn't from mankind. Maybe it was done from another race that came down and put the seed in our world,
Yep. Or maybe it was the race that now lives in the center of the earth. That's what they were doing beforehand. Then they saw us coming, and they're like, okay, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, well, I would, because, I mean, we haven't done a very good job. We say how civilized we are. We're not.
No, not compared to a lot of the other species in the animal kingdom, for sure.
Well, I will say this, and I know this is a long way off about UFOs, which, everybody's expecting me to be talking about tonight. But if you ever watch a gory car accident where, people got killed, have you ever noticed, even in the news media, in pictures, a crowd develops, right? And everybody has to look. And then they have to say, oh, my God, I feel sorry for his family, right? But they have to look, They have to. Something is in mankind. It makes them look, I remember when I was in first grade, my best friend in first grade, me and him and his brother were crossing a busy street. His brother got ran over, and the car ran over his head.
Oh, my God.
And I hate to say it,
it
killed him. It killed his brother instantly. But there was a group of people there, right? And just, it was blood everywhere, right? And everybody had to look at it. And, and it was just it did something to me where I still remember it to this day. I mean, I was in shock in the first place, but then just to see all these people had to see it, okay? Where I would, if I saw something like that, I would say, oh, my God, and walk away. I wouldn't want to see it.
Spectacle. People love a spectacle.
I think they get high off of seeing stuff like that. I hate to say it. There's a lot of people that just, they have to see something like that, and I don't know what it is. It brings out the animal in them. Yeah,
and maybe it only affects people as when they're in a group setting, like group psychology. Because, that happens with us as humans. We act differently when we're in a group than we would individually,
Yeah, and that scares me, though, that it just tells us and tells me that I don't think we're as advanced a civilization as,
as we think we are.
Yeah, as we think we are. Now, I want to kind of go back to UFOs. I mean, back when Eisenhower was president, supposedly there was a pact made with, the government and Eisenhower that we would exchange basically technology. They would not attack Earth. And in return, they could basically kidnap a few humans now and then for experimenting. And he agreed to it. And they put supposedly a limit of how many they could do it. Well, from what I read and gathered, and a few people I talked to in the field told me that the aliens then didn't keep their word. They immediately started, doing their own thing and abducting, people like mad.
Right. Yeah, no, I've always suspected that. I mean, to this day, just the culling that's happening with people disappearing and all these missing